welcome back to Caramel Rocks channel. My name is Pelumi. I'm a content creator and a fashion designer, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to draft a basic bodice blog with your own pattern from scratch. The basic bodice pattern is very simple to make, and it is so versatile as it serves as a foundation to make your garments such as your jacket, your dresses, your tops, and several other designs. Drafting a basic bodice pattern is quite simple and straightforward, and in this video I'll also be showing you tips to ensure that you get the perfect bodice block for your measurements. Before we start, please do subscribe to the Caramel Rocks channel and also turn on your notifications so you don't miss all the amazing content on this channel. I hope you enjoyed the video and find it helpful. Now let's get started. To draft this pattern, you need the following tools: your ruler, a French curve, measuring tape, pen, pencil or marker, an eraser, tracing wheel or tracing paper, paper, scissors and tape, as well as your pattern paper. You'll also need the following measurements: your bust circumference, hip circumference, waist circumference, shoulder to bust point measurement, front waistline measurement, that is from the shoulder to the waist, the armhole length, bodice length, the bust span measurement, and finally the shoulder length. To start, cut out the necessary amount of pattern paper needed and ensure that the edges are straight, because that will be the center front and center back point. And in this case, I'm folding my paper in half so that I have one for the front and one for the back. But we're gonna draft the front first. So the first thing is to draw a reference line at the top of the paper as well as the side of the paper. The line on the top of the paper will serve as the shoulder line. Next, we're gonna mark down the length of the bodice, starting from the reference line. I'm gonna make mine 22 inches. Then mark 11 inches, which is the shoulder to bust measurement, starting from the reference line, and this line will be the bust line. Afterwards, mark the front waistline measurement, which is 17 inches, down from the top, which would be the waistline. We have now marked the three important horizontal lines, which is the shoulder line, waistline, bust line, as well as the hip line or the bodice hem. Let's move back to the top of the paper to draw the neckline. From the shoulder line, mark 3 inches down, which will serve as the neckline depth. For the width, mark 3 inches horizontally on the shoulder line. Then use a French curve to connect those points. The next thing is to create the shoulder slope. From the 3-inch neck point, mark 5 inches. And then from the 5-inch point, come down by 1 inch because the shoulder is not straight. Then use a straight ruler to connect the shoulder points to the neck point. Next up is to create the armhole curve. To do that, you need your armhole depth measurement, or you can use a standard formula of dividing your bust by 6 and adding 1.5 inches to it. So here I'll be dividing my bust circumference, which is 36 inches by 6, and then adding 1.5 to it. That gives me 7.8 inches, but I'm going to round this up to 8 inches for ease. This formula will give you the perfect armhole using your measurement. Mark this measurement down, starting from the shoulder slope, then connect the points together with a straight line. Square across the armhole depth point to the center front to create the upper chest line. After that is done, the next thing to do is to draw the armhole curve. To do this, mark the center point of the armhole line, and from this point, go inwards by 1 inch and mark it. To draw the armhole, connect the tip of the shoulder slope to the midpoint of the armhole and then to the upper chest line using a French curved ruler. I marked this wrongly at first, hence the second chest line, so ignore the first one and I'm going to be using the second chest line. Once that is done, let's move over to create the side seams. To do this, divide all the circumferences by 4. That is your bust, waist, and hip measurements divided by 4. I advise you write this down so that you have it at hand. Starting from the center front, mark the quarter of the bust measurement on the upper chest line. Because this is a block, I will not be adding extra seam allowance, which is a standard of 1 inch. I'm going to leave it without seam allowance. However, on the waistline, we need to add 1 inch to that quarter of the waist circumference. The extra 1 inch will serve as the dart allowance. On the hemline, mark quarter of the hip circumference as well, without any seam allowance. After marking all the horizontal points, connect them with a French curve and pay attention to the waist curve. You need to blend it in a bit so that it's not pointy, and also avoid making the hip curve too exaggerated. Before I create the waist dart, I'm going to go ahead and make an exact copy of this front pattern, ensuring that I take note of all the necessary points. To make a copy, you can use a translucent paper such as wax paper, a tracing wheel, or a copy paper. I'm using a tracing wheel here because I find it easy and it doesn't make things messy. It creates dotted points on the other side of the paper, which you will then fill in later. However, you need to take your time if it's your first time using a tracing wheel. To create the front dart, mark half of the bust span measurement on the bust line, waistline, and hip line, and then connect this point with a straight line. From the bust point, mark 1 inch downwards on the line you just drew. This is to ensure that there is ease around the bust or nipple point. At the hip or hemline, go up by 2 inches. Because the dart allowance is 1 inch, we'll be marking 0.5 inches on either side of this line on the waist point. Then connect the new bust points to the waist on either side of the line, and then as well to the hip point. Do this for the other side of the paper to create the classic waist dart shape. Adding the side dart is also very simple. All you need to do is divide the line between the upper chest point and the waist point in 2 and then mark it. Then connect this point to the bust point with a straight line. From the bust point, come down by 1 inch again. You could either divide this line by 1 inch or by half an inch on both sides, depending on your bust size. Since my bust is on the smaller side, I will divide it by 0.5, which will give me 0.25 inches on both sides of this line. Then connect this point to the apex to create the dart legs. Afterwards, you need to extend the hip line on the side by 0.5 inches, which goes to exactly the end of my paper. But if your paper is not enough, you need to add a few inches of paper to the bottom. Then reconnect this extension smoothly into the hip line towards the center front. The hemline will be straight after sewing the half an inch on the side for the side darts. Moving on to the back pattern, mark all the points to give you a replica of the front block. We will be making only a few changes to this. The first is to create the back neckline. Mark 1 inches down from the shoulder line and then connect this point to the neck point with a curve, and this would be the back neckline. For the back armhole, you need to connect the mid armhole points to the upper chest line without having to go inwards by 1 inch like we did for the front armhole. You can mark this point with 2 short lines to indicate that it is the back armhole. Finally, we will draw the back dart, which will start 1 inch below the upper chest line instead of on the bust line like we did for the front. Mark half of the bust span measurement on all the horizontal lines, and then draw the darts like we did for the front as well. To finish up the center back, on the waistline, go inwards by 1/2 inch, then connect this smoothly to the top of the neckline and also to the hem. I like to do this to prevent bunching at the back because the back is not naturally straight. You can also decide to finish this back by adding a zipper allowance. You do this by extending the center back by 1 inch and then connecting it throughout the length of the entire bodice block. The last thing to do is to cut out the pattern from the paper to reveal the pattern block. And with that, you're done drafting your basic bodice block. Did you find this easy and not as daunting as you thought? Let us know in the comment section. The possibilities are endless with a basic bodice top. If you used your correct body measurement, you should get a perfect bodice top. However, you can test this out on a tulle first. If you found this video helpful, let us know in the comment section as well. Like this video, share the video, and subscribe to Caramel Rocks channel for more amazing tutorials like this. See you next time. Bye.